There's a reality of surrender and sacrifice in our process. And I think too many times, especially for guys, the idea of surrender and sacrifice has a hugely negative connotation. It usually kind of gets rolled up under a banner of like punishment or penance for a lot of guys, and it just doesn't need to be that. In fact, it's a beautiful thing for it to not be that, and I'll explain that here in a minute. So let me tell you where this is born out of. A couple of conversations with people who have said something to the effect of, it's going to cost me. In order to do that, it's going to cost me. And I've heard somebody say, that could cost me my job. Like if I honor the boundaries she has, that could cost me my job. That could cost me my company. That could cost me a friendship. That could cost me a promotion. That could cost me my relationship with X, Y, and Z, my kids, my family, my extended family, your family, whatever that is. My right standing in our community, if you will. So that has come up in a part of the conversation. I've had another conversation with somebody recently where they said, in a moment of pain, realistically, in a moment of pain, a husband said, like, what else do I have to give up? Like, when will it be enough? What else do I have to give up for her to be satisfied? Which, for most wives, when they hear that, is like fingernails on chalkboard, first of all.
Hi, y'all. Sorry for the interruption. Hey, if these videos are helpful to you, I hope that you'll like and subscribe. And if you want more content like this, as well as live teaching calls with our team, hope that you'll check out the Worthy of Your Trust Academy. You'll find the link for that in the description. And now let's get back to the video.
So when a husband says, like, what more am I going to have to give up so that she'll be pleased, or something to that effect, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard. It's hurtful. It's just flat out hurtful. Because for most wives, they're not going, I want you to meet my standard. They're going, I want you to meet God's standard. And when you meet God's standard, you'll be meeting my standard. So it's not even about my standard, right? But for some of us, we aren't even striving for God's standard. We're just striving for some standard better than it used to be. But if we're going to get where God wants us to go, if we're going to become who God wants us to be, then there's going to be sacrifice involved and surrender involved. And so I asked the guys on our team and said, hey, tell me something that you had to sacrifice, something that was you had to surrender, maybe something even dear to you that you had to surrender in order to get to redemption. And so these are some of the things that came back, and I want to talk through a little bit of it just to give you examples. And I want you to frame it. I'm speaking to husbands here at the moment. I want you to frame this maybe differently than you've framed it before. Because what we're talking about here isn't necessarily consequences. Like some of it, yeah, it is. It just is, right? Some of this is the consequence of the way that we've lived. But instead of looking at it as, what do I have to give up to make her happy? Or what do I have to give up to somehow, achieve or accomplish this thing that is redemption? I want you to think of it more like, what can I surrender for my own sake to become who God is calling me to be? Like, what else needs to be pruned away for my sake to become who God's calling me to be, and for my wife's sake and our sake relationally? Don't think of it so much as like, what's my punishment? But think of it as a matter of sanctification. Like, God's going to have to cut some things back before he's able to grow some new fruit, so to speak. There's going to have to be some pruning involved. And so let's walk through some of what's come back, and then we'll talk to like how to put this into play. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see this. These are some of the things I want to start with. All right. Movies and TV. Hobbies, mountain biking, CrossFit, your favorite sports team. These are all things that for some of us, like those things had to be surrendered. We can't watch our favorite sports team anymore because that just brings pain. It reminds us of who we used to be, and it reminds her of who we used to be. Especially if that sports team that's ruined was y'all's favorite sports team together. Right? There may be something that has to be surrendered there. Not just that I lost that because it's a consequence of my sin, but because actually pruning that out of my life makes our life better. Right? The same thing with these hobbies, movies, TV, mountain biking, CrossFit, whatever your thing is. there may be a season where surrendering that is actually the best thing for you. Never mind her. It's just the best thing for you, because that was holding a place in your life that's taking up something that really needs to be removed in order for God to get you where he wants you to go. Some of y'all have heard me say this before. I've had multiple triathlon, Ironman triathlete competitors, if you will, a couple of pros in my office. A whole bunch of them live in Boulder, if you didn't know, in Boulder, Colorado, where they train. But I have so many of those people in my office, those guys in my office, and it's like they want so bad to change. They want so bad to restore their marriage. But they won't let go of triathlons. They won't let go of 86-mile bikes and 20-mile runs for training and the 7 hours that's going to take up today. And right, but it's like that thing in their life has such a hold. It has such an identity. It's such an idol, to use Christianese. It's such an idol in their life that God can't get them where he wants them to go. Okay, can he? Yes, but will he force it? Usually not. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Like, that thing's taken up so much of them, right? There may be surrender in that form. Social media, sleep, jobs. There are some of us right now who we will not find redemption sleeping as much as we sleep. We just won't. Like, you can't live this way and actually get there, right? Jobs is the same way. There's some of us right now who we will not find the redemption that we are looking for until we let go of that job. And I say this without, nobody hang up and call your boss and quit your job and then make my name a cuss word, okay? That's not what I'm saying to do. What I'm saying is that job has so much hold on you. It creates so much internal strife, or alternatively provides so much internal worth, that until that's gone, that's going to be really hard to change. And part of the reason it's going to be really hard to change is because until you've let go of that, you can't receive what God wants to give you. You can't grab hold of whatever it is that God is trying to give you. I've given this example with a couple of people. I used to give this example a lot at the Everyman's Battle workshops. But it's like, if I'm holding on to this really, really, really tight, and this is my current identity in work, let's just say, and God has something really, really good to give me, really sweet redemption, like, he can't put this in my hand, no matter how badly I want to take hold of it. He can't get this in my hand until I let go of it. I'm not going to let go of this because it's just be a big mess. And I don't want to waste perfectly good sweet tea. But you guys get the metaphor, right? I got to let go of that before God can put that redemptive thing in my grip, right? For some of us, it's that job, man. It's that company. It's that identity in terms of work. For some of us, it's not even the job. It's just the concept of being a provider. Like, who am I if I'm not the financial provider? Some of us, that's born out of our upbringing, right? Like that comes from our 6 to 16 stuff. But it's just the concept of being a provider. And that concept, I'll talk more about self-concept here in a minute. For some of us, that's the biggest stumbling block. Sometimes you're sitting in the conversations at home and you're going, why does it feel like we're not getting where we want to go? Maybe because you haven't let go of that thing yet, right? What might you have to surrender? The pastorate. There's more than one guy on our team who had to give up the pastorate in order to find redemption. Like, that's really painful. Talk about identity. It's not just a job. It's the job God called me to. And that doesn't mean they'll never be in the pastorate again. That doesn't mean they'll never lead a church again. That doesn't mean they'll never preach another sermon. It means for a season, and we don't know how long that season is, that's not where they can be and find redemption. And especially in this one, as it pertains to the pastorate, side note, there are some husbands who you're not going to find redemption in the pastorate because your wife can't find redemption as pastor's wife. Like, she just can't. Right? And I'm not pointing to anybody specific, like y'all have to talk about it at home. There are some wives who you can't live in the fishbowl anymore. You can't live being that gal anymore. You can't be that person with all the responsibility. You can't be the one holding down the fort so he can be everything to everybody at the church, etc. For some of us, letting go of the pastor is going to be part of the deal, right? Sleeping in the same house as my family. I mean, is that a consequence for some of us? Yeah. And it's also the place that God might need to take you in order to do work in you to prune some things away. I mean, some of y'all know Thomas Berry on our team. Like, he'll tell you the story of walking through a scorched wildfire, a forest that was scorched by a wildfire, and the conversation that he and God had about how that reflected his life. Him being out of the house and away from his family, that's where God did work in him to prune back some stuff. Right? Okay, so newsflash, I'm not saying everyone separate. That's not what I'm talking about. Kick him out. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, everybody just be on the same page. Dreams. You can't have the things that you wanted in terms of those dreams. You're gonna have to let that go. That what your retirement was gonna look like, gonna have to let that go. You're gonna have to surrender that. You're not gonna be able to just do life the way you envisioned it when y'all finally stop working, because your golden years have tarnish on them. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it can't be polished, right? That doesn't mean it can't be redeemed. But if you're hanging on to that concept, that notion, it may be blocking you from getting where God's trying to take you right now, right? As it pertains to money or your career or your hobbies. Like, there's some of us that, again, back to hobbies, as it pertains to dreams, right? Like, yeah, some of us are going to have to let go of some of those things. Okay, friendships. Some of you are going to have to let go of friendships because those friendships are just terrible for your redemptive process. You just can't find redemption with that person in your ear or with that person in your life. It's just, it's not going to be possible. And for some of us, those people will self-select. Right? Some of them will self-select, but that's less the case. Then sometimes we just have to say, hey, I just need a break and I can't spend the same kind of time because I'm working on something really important, and it's our life. And there's going to be some friendships that have to go. For some of us, those friendships are actually family relationships. Like, some of us, we can't stay engaged with our family the way that we have because there's toxicity. It just messes us up because it keeps us entrenched in a dynamic, whether that's an enmeshment with mom, we talked about that, whether that's staying under our abusive father, whether it's just the dynamic that when we go to holidays, the way my family works is actually painful to her. Whenever they call and FaceTime the kids, it's just painful to her. And I can't break the whole cycle. I can't redeem the whole cycle. So I just got to take a break from the cycle for a little while. It doesn't mean you're estranged from your family forever. It means for a season, I just need some space. You might have to surrender them for a little while. Again, just don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying like it's all in perpetuity. Maybe, but it may not be. And it's probably not. I mean, there's some of us that have family relationships. It's our brother, it's our sister, it's our uncle, it's our aunt, it's our grandmother, whoever it is that we're involved with. And it's toxic. It's toxic. I mean, I mentioned this on here, I think, before. I have a buddy who, his mom is like 87, I think. Yeah, I think his mom is 87. Anytime that he's going to make contact with her, he calls an accountability partner afterwards. Like, that's just part of his rhythm in his life today. If he talks to his mom, he calls one of his guys. He talks to his wife too, of course, but he makes sure to call one of his guys because he's got to process whatever he talked to her about because it's going to mess him up emotionally. Does he talk to his 87-year-old mom some? Yeah. As much as he did 10 years ago? No. He's got some distance from that, and he's put some boundaries around the way that he does that. Right? For some of us, that's going to be required. Surrender. Here comes some harder ones. And I'm speaking personally of some of these. Entitlements and 50-50. Y'all know we're not 50-50, and none of us take that approach here. And I can just tell you, that was a really hard part of my process. Like 50-50 in marriage, that's the way it's supposed to be. Give and take. If I give 110, you give 110. It's that kind of stuff. And man, if I look at the marriages that I can name on one hand that are sweet, redemptive relationships, I can tell you they're all lopsided. And what I mean by lopsided is that wife, most of those situations, if I look at them, that wife, as much as she gives, that husband tries to outgive her. As much as she's willing to engage, that husband's willing to engage more. Hey, that he will not be outworked by her. He will not be outserved by her. That's consistent across the board. Now, I don't ever want our relationship to be 50-50. Some of y'all have heard me talk about this before. I had to surrender that in the beginning, surrender 50-50. It was 100-0 for a lot of years, right? And Shelley would stand here and tell you, like, that was really beneficial for us. I would tell you today, it's a lot more level. It's a lot more level. Like, it's maybe 49-51 or something, you know, but I don't ever want it to be the other way. I don't ever want the scales to balance. I don't ever want her to feel like she's serving more or giving more or whatever. I always want the scale to balance out, scale to tilt, if you will. Right? And so giving up 50-50 for me meant that means I got to give up some entitlements. Like, I give without expecting to receive, which is still hard. Y'all know. I mean, everybody knows that, right? I gotta serve without the expectation of being served back. I'm gonna respect without the expectation of being respected. I'm gonna hold her in high esteem, whether or not she's holding me in high esteem, which most of the time she does. You understand? Like, because, and this is what I go back to. Maybe surrendering my right to 50-50 isn't so much a punishment and a consequence, but it's actually the thing that God wants to displace in my heart so he can plug back in good and righteous. I can tell you, it shows up over and over again at our house that is the best way. That seems to be the way that just seems to be the best way. And I can tell you today as well, Shelley doesn't take advantage of that. At least I don't think she does. I mean, she might stand here and give you a different answer, but I don't think she takes advantage of it. I don't think there are times when she goes, he serves more than me. I'm just going to kick back and not do my part and just let him do his because it's on him. I don't think that's really how she rolls. And to be honest, most of the time when I see a husband serve really, really well and go above and beyond and it be 90-10 and him own that it's 90-10, most wives respond to that by doing way more than 10 anyway. It just works out. Okay, keep going. Pride. So another one of our guys said this, and I was like, oh man, that's like convicting. This is real convicting for me personally. Pride of having it all figured out, of knowing all the answers, of being in charge, of being right. Man, I like to be right. Of being different, like surrendering pride. Like all of us would say, yeah, surrendering pride's a good thing. But there's a difference between surrendering pride versus actually living today with the mindset that I don't know all the answers for some of us. That I'm not the smartest guy in the room and I don't have to be. That I don't have to be right today. Actually, I don't have to be right. It's not a statement of my value and worth if I'm wrong today. For some of us, the concept of surrendering pride is like nebulous, vague. Man, it gets traction when you bring it down to that level. Big one for me was being different, right? Part of my core wound been significance. If I can be different, then I'll find significance. Letting go of that, right? The early days of our process where people are telling me things about recovery and I'm going, yeah, I don't think that applies to me. I'm different. I mean, I know that works for most of the guys in your office, but I don't think that really applies to me. Right? Like over and over again, I'm bumping up against things with my accountability partners and our counselor and people that I'm talking to who have way more experience in recovery than I do. And I'm going, I'm different. Yeah, I'll take a little bit of that and apply it to my life because that'll probably fit. Most of it doesn't apply to me. I'm different. Gotta let go of that. Gotta let go of that. It doesn't mean everything fits perfectly, but more of it fits than I'm willing to allow until I surrender that. Right? Beliefs regarding family of origin. Again, one of the things that's hanging some of us up is we're just not willing to let go of that. Beliefs around our family of origin. Right? Some of us are still walking around like, and if you didn't know this already, okay, when it comes to family of origin work, just so you know, you have to do one of these. I hold my family in high esteem, so I'm pissed because of what they did do and didn't do. So I hold them in high esteem again and can respect where they're coming from and what their thing is. It doesn't mean I condone it all. Doesn't mean I agree with it all. Doesn't mean they did the best they could with what they had all the time. It doesn't mean that. It just means I get it. I can have empathy and compassion, even though some of what happened was really hurtful. You got to go through this. And people who are resistant to take that dive, people who are resistant to look at the pain from their family and just hold on to the family beliefs that home is where the heart is, you know, like your blood is thicker than water and our blood is thicker than the blood of the woman that you marry or whatever, you know, there's all sorts of messages. Some of us, that's what we're hanging on to. It's killing us. It's killing us. It's a block that we keep bumping up against. Right? Wonky theology. Some of us are bumping up against wonky theology around roles and headship and submission and sex. And we just, I sometimes picture God going, man, come on, that's not how I meant that to be. You know, like, that's in the scripture, but it's not meant to be applied that way, y'all. I think sometimes that for some guys, this is like an Achilles heel, right? It's an Achilles heel. And it was for me too. I was never really heavy-handed with Shelley, but I consistently resented her for not submitting. In my head, I wouldn't voice it a lot, and then it'd come out sideways and passive-aggressive, because I'm good at passive aggression. But in my head, I would resent her for not submitting, right? And I've said this, maybe some of y'all have heard me say this before. What I was doing was, so here's what God's calling me to. I'm living my life down here. This is me, this is her. This is what God calls me to. I'm living my life down her, and I'm expecting her to submit to me. I'm expecting her to bring herself underneath me. What wife wants to do that? When you're not living right, when you're living well below what you know God is calling you to, what wife, and wives always sense that, what wife wants to submit herself to him? Because here's what that materializes as, here's how it manifests is, I'm asking her to become less of herself, to follow me. Right? I'm asking her to move from dignity and sort of like jettison some of that, divorce herself of some of her dignity to come submit herself to my lowly headship, right? As opposed to, if I'm striving to become who God is calling me to be, the likelihood of her wanting to get behind that, submit herself to that, is really, really high. Because, and most wives can relate to this, because if you're striving for this and I submit myself to that, we're both going to be better. We're both going to grow. We're both going to become more full representations of who God is calling us to be. I can get behind that. I don't want to get behind this. See what I'm saying? Right? So part of that thing for me was like, she won't submit. Well, you won't lead, Jason. You worry about you leading, then we'll worry about her submitting. Turns out, works that way pretty well. Okay, last couple things, I'm done. Self-concept. Self-concept, big one for me was being a good guy. Being a good guy, right? I wanted to see myself as a good guy. And there were times when I was faced with things and I believe wholeheartedly that God put them right in my way so that I had to jettison being the good guy. So that I would have to surrender that. Man, a prime example of that. This was like in year, 2 of our process. I used to work in downtown Dallas. And if any of y'all are around the Dallas area, it's the building with the big X, right? It used to be a Blockbuster Video home headquarters. There's this weird thing that in all the companies that I worked for, they went out of business. I don't know if that's a statement of me or not. But anyway, I used to work there, so I'd park, a mile out where it's super cheap parking. So one day I'm walking to the parking lot, it's 5 o'clock. Actually, it may have been later than that. It may have been more like 6:30. I'm walking out to the parking lot. I get out there. There are 2 cars in this section of the parking lot. There's no other cars around for a long way. There's 2 cars. My car and the car parked right in front of me that is a woman standing there looking like she is stressed. And so I'm walking up to my car and I'm going, what's this woman doing there? What is this about? I don't want to be in this situation. What's going on? And as soon as I get to the car, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. My car's broke down. Do you have jumper cables? And so here I'm like year 1 or maybe year 2 of our process. And I'm going, gulp. Actually, I think it was year 2. Here's what I'm thinking in my head. If I really want to be a good guy and help her out because I got jumper cables. But here's the thing. If for some reason Shelly calls and what I did, hey, hold on, I'm helping a woman start a car. That's not going to go well. if Shelly were to pull up and see that I'm interacting by myself out in the middle of nowhere with this woman, like that's not going to go well for trust. And like somebody's going to have to get hurt here. It's either going to be Shelly or it's going to be her. It's going to be me, somebody. And it was the hardest thing to say, no, sorry, gotta go by and leave her stranded. And there's some of y'all who are going, man, that's terrible. Really, Jason? Yep, that's what it took. One, to protect her heart, and two, because I can't be the nice guy. Like God had to strip that out of me, and I think wholeheartedly put me in situations where I was willing to jettison that, to let go of that, right? And I drove away going, God help her. Man, find somebody to pull up and give, have somebody help her. But I'm not going to put Shelly in that awkward situation to be the one who's heartbroken again, because I've done too much of that, right? And I'm not going to be the good guy. Sometimes I got to be the bad guy. And for some of us, we're going to have to surrender that self-concept. And that shows up at work, and that shows up with our kids, right? It shows up in parenting. Some of us, like, she's the one going, y'all can't have sweets. You've had too much sweets. You can't do it that way. And then she's doing something that night, and we go, hey, y'all, have some ice cream. I know you don't get it very often because we don't want to be the bad guy. We want to be the good guy. But then we throw her under the bus. You guys see what I'm saying? And then lastly is dignity. This is not tit for tat, so don't take it that way, and then I'll stop talking. This is not tit for tat. That's not what this is meant to be at all. Okay. Every wife I talk to, on some level, she's lost some of her dignity. Whether that's through what's happened in the bedroom, whether that's through his affair, whether that's through the pornography use, whether that's through the compare and contrast, whether that's just through the anger and rage and the meanness and the manipulation and whatever it is, like every wife there's some loss of dignity in this process, right? and there's something to, again, it's not tit for tat, but there's something to when we as husbands say, I'm willing to surrender my dignity. For so long we've said, I'll make sure I'm okay at your expense, and now what we're doing is saying, I'm gonna make sure you're okay at my expense. And I'm willing to surrender my dignity. I'm willing to walk out of that meeting. I'm willing to cancel that trip. I'm willing to not go to that event. I'm willing to stop playing golf with those guys. I'm willing to turn off that TV. I'm willing to tell the kids the truth. I'm willing to tell my mom the truth. Whatever the thing is where you feel like it's sort of taking some of your dignity, or let's make it more real time for some of us. I'm willing to take your pain when you're name calling because you're in a rage. I'm not advocating physical violence, y'all understand. Throw heavy things, we'll duck. Like I'm willing to take that it may never be equitable. And that feels like it's stripping some of my dignity. I'll do that because I want you to be okay more than I want me to be okay. Right? That's where we got to go for redemption. That's where we got to go for redemption. Last piece on this, I said I'm going to stop talking. Over and over again, y'all, I talk to couples who survive. They made it. Whew. But they don't thrive. They do not have what they know is possible, especially on the wife side. For wives more than husbands, I see, like they have a sensitivity in their spirit to what could be, like what God could really do in the relationship. And guys, let me just tell you, that's because they see the good man in you. Every wife, and again, if I'm wrong, you can veto me and just elbow him afterward and say that doesn't apply. Wives see the good man that's in there. They know who you can be and what you are capable of. They know the devastation you're capable of. They also know the good man that you could be. I understand for some of y'all that's like faded, but it's still in there, okay? So wives can oftentimes, they can see like there's something sweet on the other side of this that we could actually thrive. There could be redemption and sweetness, not just we made it. And the X factor so many times in whether we just survived or whether we thrived is how much as a husband we're willing to surrender. It comes down to that over and over and over again. I wish it wasn't that. Anecdotally, it's that, right? I don't have any stats, but I wish it wasn't that. I wish there's something else I could point to. But man, I see it over and over and over again. That's the X factor. Right? And I don't think that's because that's what she's demanding. I think it's because that's how God designed it. Because that's what he modeled. Total sellout, wholesale, willing to surrender the things that are dearest to me, embodied in the form of my son. Right? I think that he modeled it, and I think that that's the call in our lives. Part one of my answer is it's going to be harder. Like, you're going to have to work extra hard in order to live with integrity and do restoration and redemptive work. That's going to be part of the deal. There's a little bit of that in my story too, right? When everything hit the fan, the mocha hit the fan at our house, I quit my job. I was like, I'm out. I can't do this. I just quit my job. And then Shelly's like, you're an idiot. We need your income. Get your job back. And so, she wanted me to get my job back at the company where I'd had an affair with a coworker in this environment that was really not healthy. And I ended up getting a different job at that company. But I went back to work there, and it was like this painful environment every day, reminding me of what I had done, and also this really bad environment. So my point is, there was a season where it wasn't ideal by any means, in terms of that was super triggering for her and triggering for me and everything else. Which leads to part two of my answer, which is I believe God's sovereign in that too. I don't think God would want you to go AWOL. Please don't go AWOL. And I think God's sovereign in that too. I think while that's not the most conducive, it is your commitment, and to see that commitment through, and I'm not trying to give you a pat answer. I think God will show up in that for you. I believe God will show up in that for you. It may be showing up just to walk you through how hard it is, but I believe God will show up in honor that you're following through on that commitment, even if it doesn't feel like it's the most conducive place for y'all. What we're conceptualizing and loving and serving, I think there's kind of like you're down a track with what that looks like, partly based on what I was just talking about. But I want to extract that, and I want to plug back in. You're going above and beyond in service doesn't look like dinner and cleaning and kids and blah, blah, blah. You're going above and beyond in service looks like you working hard at making sure you're figuring out you, right? Serving her today is less about making sure the kitchen is clean, let's just say, and it's more about making sure I'm not approaching her as mom, right? Serving her today is less about praying together, although that's a good thing, and it's more about making sure that I'm not manipulating you to feel like I've got a sense of security, right? Going back to the shame is a comfort. Right. Today, serving her is making sure that I'm throwing the blanket down, that blankie, shame blankie down, so that I'm actually standing forward in like some semblance of identity, as opposed to holding on to my blankie. That's your act of service today. We say all the time, it's 90-10 or 100-0, like husband's doing all the work. But the truth is, wives are doing a ton of work. It's not the work we're putting on them in terms of homework, so to speak, but wives are doing a ton of work. It's work to hold on to hope. It's work to see the good in you. It's work to acknowledge the positive. It's work to show up again another day. It's work to not file today, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for some wives, then you go another layer, and it's like, it's work to not scream and rage at you. It's work to not despise you. It's work to not be lulled into believing when it's false hope. Like, it's work. And so if I'm going to outserve her, some of service in this case is I'm going to outwork her. Today, I'm going to be doing more work on getting me right with God, with others, etc. I'm going to do more work today than she is. That's service today. I just had this conversation with some folks the other day who she's like, I'm the one walking around thinking, is he going to address that trigger? Are we going to talk about it before we go in Costco? Are we going to talk about it before? Are we going to do a fit nap tonight? Is he going to check in? Am I actually going to get a text? Does he care that I'm going to the doctor today? Like, she's going, I'm the one walking around thinking about it. He's not thinking about it as much as I am. Okay, well, 90-10 or, tilting the scales today is for us as a husband to be the one doing that, be the one carrying more of that, communicating more of that so that she doesn't have to, that's out serving her. It's one thing for you to go, hey, how was the doctor's appointment today? Who knows? Is that new? Is that old? Is that you working? Is that serving? What is that? No, we don't know. It's a different thing if you go, hey, I'm wondering how it went at the doctor, and I just want you to know this is checked in my spirit. This is not manipulative. It's not about me. It's not trying to make me feel like I'm a good husband and father by checking in with you. It's sincere that I just want to know how it went for you today. Like, I've checked all that already. Like, that's a different conversation. You see the difference. And that doesn't mean she's not going to go, I don't believe you. Okay. But I can tell you, if each time you're approaching and you can speak to the fact that you've done work before you approach, so you know your own heart, and you know, like the depths of a man's heart, important to plumb. If you know you've done that before you approach her, she's going to start to sense that. If she starts to know that you know that what you're asking isn't manipulative, she'll start to believe it too. For all of us, is like, if it's just we're springing it on her and we've been off. I mean, that's the key takeaway for me too, right? It's like, all of a sudden now it's sincere, but you've been disconnected and hiding and manipulative the last 4 days, but now it's sincere. There's no way she can believe that. There's no way she can sense texture different in that. She wasn't saying, it's good. It feels good to me when I see him getting punished. She's not saying, it feels good to me when I see that it costs him something for the sake of it costing him something. It's not what she's saying. What she's saying is, when I see that that's what he's willing to do, that's the length he's willing to go to, that's the level of sacrifice, it just does something in her spirit. She doesn't even have to do the mental gymnastics sometimes. I mean, sometimes you do, right? And this is for all wives. Sometimes you do. Most of the time, you don't even have to do mental gymnastics to get there. Like, it just does something when she sees that that's the case. Over and over again, it's like that. It's not about what's this going to cost me. It's about what can I surrender? What needs to be pruned so that I can step into whatever's next? Sweet tea exchange for a phone. That's a tough sell for me. I'll just be honest. But it goes back to this. If I look at this list and I go, let go of that, and let go of that, and let go of that, and let go of that. What I can tell you in my life, and I think if you ask any of the guys here on the team, they would tell you a similar story. When I finally let go of whatever this is, some of what God put in place, like sometimes it was something completely new and different. It was just better. And there are some things that actually got restored. That thing got redeemed, and then it got restored. And so I give you a couple examples of that. And these are silly, couple of silly examples at my house. Mountain biking, right? Mountain biking was lost for me. I remember the very first time, like a month into recovery, when I packed my stuff up to go and I'm about to head out, and Shirley's like, where are you going? I'm mountain biking. She's like, the hell you are? Well, I can't trust what you're doing 3 hours alone out there, supposedly alone. Like, you're not going mountain biking. I'm going, mountain bike's the only place that I have solace. That's the only thing not ruined in my life. Like, that's the only place where I actually feel like I can be me and not have to fumble and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you want to go, you can do it, but you're going to be single. And it's like, and then fast forward a number of years, and one day she out of the blue goes, hey, why don't you go mountain biking? You haven't been mountain biking in a while. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And then if I fast forward to today, I got my boys out mountain biking and we're having a blast. And it's like, that's something sweet between us. And I feel like what God did is he took this thing that was kind of tainted, actually, because of the way that I used mountain biking back in the day. And again, it's a silly example, I understand. But it's like I had to surrender it. And then a number of years later, I got it back, but I got it back untainted. I got it back sweeter and more redemptive than it was before. And there's so many things. If I look at this list, I go, man, if you'll get rid of that, if you'll let go of that, you'll let go of being in charge, there's a high likelihood that at some point God redemptively is going to put you in charge of something. It's just going to be sweet because it's not what it used to be. If you'll let go of some of the wonky theology, I believe God will reprogram some of the healthy theology, and you'll just see a much more redemptive relationship with him and the people around you that applies to. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that God wants to restore is so much better than what we had. I really believe that. And I believe God's rate of redemption is faster than our rate of destruction. what took us 4 decades to blow up isn't going to take 4 decades to redeem. What took us 3 years to blow up isn't going to take 3 years to redeem. All right, I'm off the soapbox. I'll close with this. I said at the beginning, I don't know why this is kind of emotional. Like I get emotional when I talk about this particular thing. And I think part of the reason why is because it fits in with the kind of upside down economy of God, right? Like the first will be last and last will be first. Whoever wants to be the greatest will be the least, right? Whoever wants to be the king will actually be the greatest servant. Like it's upside down economy. And I think this applies to that. Like we really have a chance in recovery, and recovery is just, right? We all probably say recovery is just synonymous with sanctification. That we really have a chance to experience a more full relationship with God. We have an opportunity to experience a more redemptive relationship with God by letting go of some things that are impeding that first and foremost. There's a chance for something really good on the other side. Something that is otherworldly in this world on the other side. So I'm encouraging all of y'all, reminding myself too, right? Teacher, heal thyself. Physician, heal thyself thing. Reminding myself to take advantage of that. Let go of the resistance and let's embrace, like, what can we surrender, not what do we have to surrender.